Welcome back to Talking Cities with Matt Entsice and friends. We are happy to be getting back into providing you with cultivating conversations as we discuss healthier, more sustainable communities and explore the beauty and creativity in it all. As you can see, I've added friends to the podcast name, so I'll not be your only host, but you will be educated and entertained by some of our team's thought leaders. On this week's episode, the BNMC Director of Inclusion and Community Initiatives, Kyria sits with the Honorable April Baskin, Chair of the Erie County Legislature. As Buffalo native, April McCants-Baskin is a devoted community advocate for equity and social justice. In 2017, April was elected to the Erie County Legislature. Her district is the most diverse district in Erie County as it contains the region's wealthiest and poorest neighborhoods, as well as being home to immigrants and refugees from dozens of nations around the world. Baskin's colleagues elected her chairperson of the legislature in spring of 2019, making her the youngest person and the first freshman to serve as chairperson in the history of the Erie County Legislature. Join in on a conversation with Kyria and April as they talk Buffalo and our surrounding communities. Let's dive in. Welcome to Talking Cities.
Hey everybody, it's Kyria Stevens, the Director of Inclusion and Community Initiatives for Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus, here today with the Honorable, and I say honorable because she definitely is honorable, Legislator Chairwoman April Baskin. Today we're going to be having a great discussion on a variety of topics, and I am not going to hold you, I can't say that because I'm at church, so... So we'll just kick it right off. And first I'm going to say just welcome. Thank you for taking the time to come talk with us.
Thank you, Kyria. Thank you so much.
So I'm just ask you the first question. It's maybe some people might know, but some of us don't know. What is a legislator and what does it mean to be the chair of the legislature?
Good question. Thank you. So the county legislature is the legislative branch of government in the county. So when you think about how legislative branches are connected to an executive branch, like the President of the United States is the executive, and then Congress is the legislative branch, and then there's a judicial branch. And same thing in the city of Buffalo. The executive branch is the seat of the mayor. The legislative branch is the Common Council, and then there is the Buffalo City Court. So the same thing goes for Erie County. Mm-hmm. The executive of Erie County is Mark Polenkars. He sits in the executive seat. And then there is the legislative branch. There are 11 legislators that each get a little piece of Erie County. Mm-hmm. And all legislators convene and have meetings and vote on things like the budget, taxes, local laws, policy, and somebody has to preside over those meetings. So all 11 legislators once a year vote for someone to be in charge of all of the legislature. And since 2019, I have been voted the chair of the legislature. And in 2019, I was the youngest person in history to ever hold that seat. So it's quite historic. I was also the only person in history to ever become chairman in their first term of service. Legislators serve 2-year terms. So yeah, we are the legislative, lawmaking, and policy branch in county government.
That is excellent. Well said. So what made you want to become a legislator? And when you decided you wanted to become a legislator, what was that journey like?
So I never wanted to be a legislator. That wasn't anything that was a part of my plan for my life. Uh-huh. But, you know, God just had different plans. The community just had different plans for me. So I went to school to study the arts, and I had worked in arts and education in Buffalo and in New York City for 10 years. Back in 2014, I came home from New York City after being there for 10 years and started, you know, kind of working in the community in the space of arts and education. And a former elected official told me that a lot of the work that I was doing Back then, it was a nonprofit that I started, the College Simulation Experience. She felt it was really innovative. It was great. I was raising money. I was coordinating my community. I was reaching people. I was assessing a problem in the community and meeting the need and a positive outcome. And she thought that all of those things that I was doing, running this nonprofit that I started basically in the middle of my living room floor, could be transferable skills into being a county legislator. And I said, absolutely not. Like, I've seen Law and Order. I've seen episodes of Scandal. I don't want to be in politics and government. And I really wasn't an engaged voter. I only voted every 4 years in the presidential election. So local government wasn't really something that I paid attention to. So I said no about 4 or 5 times, which is common for women. Women commonly say no to running for office. And then eventually I learned that county government is the branch of government that helps people's quality of life. So it's not like a common council member where it's about roads and buildings and zoning and trash and development. It's really about, do people have food to eat? Do seniors and veterans have the things that they need? Do children have the things that they need? Do people have a roof over their head? Do people have heat in their home? And when I understood that the county really helped people survive, I said, you know what? I think I'll try it. And so I just ran.
Well, I'm so glad you did. I'm so glad you did. You're over District 2.
Correct.
Right?
The east side and the west side of Buffalo.
Right. So you have the most diverse district, whether that be socioeconomic or from a racial standpoint or what have you. So what does it mean what does inclusion look like to you?
So yeah, my district has so many different layers of diversity from, like you said, some of the wealthiest zip codes are in District 2 and some of the poorest zip codes are in District 2. Most of the top 10 languages that are spoken across the county, you'll find them all spoken in District 2. The really rich immigrant area like Grant Street is in District 2. The historically black East Buffalo is in District 2. So to me, how do you represent all of those people who have different needs, but worthy needs, is making sure that everybody's concerns for a better life have a place to be heard, and then finding the common place where their needs overlap. We'd be surprised. We think that because someone does come from a different race or cultural background, speaks a different language, or has a different income status, that they have no idea what it's like to be me. And actually, a lot of people's needs and interests do overlap. So what I have found to be successful for me as a district legislator are finding those areas where the needs overlap and helping people realize that they do have commonalities. And that's what I go for in terms of fighting for my community.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting because, one of the things that I'm doing here is helping people to integrate that. Buffalo has a lot of silos, and to integrate those networks and people to do life together, because you'll find that you have a lot more in common. So that's great. And so my next question to you is, having this diverse district and doing all the things that you've done, what is some of the most proud, like what are some of your most, the initiatives that you're most proud of? Now, I can name a lot of them because I did an extensive history from 2017 to today. I spent about 3 hours just looking through everything. What are some of your most proud moments?
I'm always proud of the things that have come out of my leadership as chair of the legislature and a county legislator, where it was just new. It was something that was never done in Erie County before. And now that the policy or the law or the way of life has been put in place, life is completely different. There is America post 9/11 and America, pre 9/11, right? We remember being able to go to airports and just be able to wait for people to get off their flights. Yep. And then, and then some would say that about the previous president that we had. There was a way of life in this country pre-President Trump and then post-Trump. And I want my legacy in Erie County to be like what life was like in Erie County before April Baskin was a legislator, and now after April Baskin is a legislator. There's just such a positive impact. So more specifically to answer, I think the Office of Health Equity is a huge victory. COVID-19 just traumatized the entire world. And then, I noticed that there was a disparity and a disproportionate rate of Black communities having positive cases. And I said, when you look at the cancer cluster here in Buffalo and Erie County, you look at the 14215 districts, zip codes impact of COVID-19 compared to other zip codes. There are some things that are going on in concentrated areas with Black communities and brown communities and marginalized communities with their health. And we're not studying it. We're not preparing for it. We're just responding to it. So, I went to the county executive and told them that other cities and states and counties have offices of minority health or offices of health equity. And he supported the idea. We wrote the legislation, we passed it, and now there's a department in the health department here in Erie County that is solely focused on marginalized communities' health. So there was COVID-19, it hit, and there was no preparation, but now we have the Office of Health Equity. Sadly, a year after that office was open, the East Side was targeted with the mass shooting. And it was the Office of Health Equity that was the first department in Erie County that was able to respond, that had culturally relevant research and that was prepared to be able to reach out to mental health counselors and make a plan to come into this community who had been traumatized in a very impactful, sensitive, and caring way. So that if they had that office not have been in place, I don't know what Erie County's response to the mass shooting would have looked like. But because, I had championed that office being created after the traumatic experience of COVID-19, we were well prepared to respond. I think the second thing that I'm most proud of is the new Level Up initiative. Again, so before April Baskin was elected, there was no community benefits deal ever negotiated when we negotiated our local NFL deal with the Buffalo Bills here in Erie County. But this time around, we negotiated a deal that has not only a $100 million investment, but there's also a county program being developed to help marginalized Black and brown business owners be able to meet the opportunities of the community benefits agreement, which means their small businesses will be able to be contracted with constructing the stadium and then being included in the stadium when it's done. So those are like the really big things where I sit back and I go, wow, life was one way. And then, I was in office and then I shook things up and now things are different.
I love that. So with the Level Up, I'll get to that. I'll ask you some more questions about that in a moment. But do you feel like the Level Up program or the initiative is just a continuation of what you started in 2021, where it was the MWEE Modernization Act? How do you feel like those two meshed? Is that a piggyback off of that, or is that a continuation? Talk to me a little bit about how you view those together.
Yeah, I've been on a MWBE, fix the problem, fill the gap journey since 2019, where I engaged with some small business owners. They were contractors in construction who had these horrible stories about how federal, state, and city and county MWBE laws really didn't help them. And I was like, but dating back to the Nixon administration, the concept of MWBE inclusion for entrepreneurs across the country was supposed to be able to give you guys more space. And they were like, absolutely not. There's so many loopholes. There's so many gaps. So I started on a journey of saying Erie County's law is outdated. We have to do something. We have to have higher goals of utilization, and we have to find a way to close some of these gaps. Then redoing the law, which also included consolidating. Erie County had 4 different MWBE laws. Like they had a law for construction, then there was a law for professional services, and there was a law for supplies, and then there was a law like for the county to use MWBs. It was just too much. And I was like, so the MWBE Modernization Act, I think it was 2021, was a consolidation of those bills. It called to do a disparity study to really assess how many MWBEs do we have in Erie County. And it also calls on Erie County to increase the utilization up to 30% of minority entrepreneurs. From there, I have a seat on the Erie County Industrial Agencies Corporation, which is the agency that gives developers tax breaks. And I challenge that board to start to think about what would it look like if we had a tax incentive for developers if they were more engaging of MWBEs. And so then we started to develop that pilot, which is rolling out of the ECIDA this year. And so then that led to the CBA, like the biggest construction project of our lifetime was going to happen when we announced that we were going to get a new stadium. And I was like, well, we got to make sure that we use M's and W's, that minority and women have a place, because I've been hearing in the streets that they feel that this is all just a rigged game and they really don't. So it was like this constant, every time an opportunity came up, I was always thinking about, how does a minority business fit into this? How does a minority business fit into this? So it started with the law, then it went to the tax incentive for developers, and then it ended up with the new stadium. And then the Level Up program was like, okay, we created all these opportunities between a tax incentive, a new law with new goals. We got the CBA that's going to say everybody that's Black got a place in the new stadium deal, and everybody that's brown that owns a business got a space. But what are we doing to prepare them? Yeah. So then that's where Level Up came in.
So you're creating space for MWBEs to be able to utilize the codes and the programs and the set-asides, the contracts that are set aside, the percentages for women and minority-owned businesses. But how do, what is the difference between a business that is certified or not certified as MWBE? Why should a person become MWBE certified? Like, what does that even mean?
I mean, I don't know. That's the journey that I'm on. I'm like figuring that out. I mean, in short, when you are certified by either your federal government or your local municipality in the state, your city or your county, that means that anytime public dollars are used to develop a project or invest it into a project, that municipality or branch of government is required by law that a certain percentage of the revenues get spent with marginalized business owners, meaning a minority or a woman. And there are different percentages and different ways. You got to know you got to know it all in terms of inclusion, but to even be able to be considered, like they're not going to truly consider you as counting towards the goals that they have to meet unless you have that certification. So it's all about, like, do you want to engage with government dollars? Some people don't. I say, like, money is green.
Come on.
Like, and the government gonna pay. Yeah. Like, get some of these contracts out here in the private sector and you got to deal with, legal counsel and corporations and stuff like this. But here's the thing. The government is subject to the laws that are written in and they have to operate within those, within that structure. And so when you get a government contract, that check gonna come.
Oh yeah.
And so the fact of the matter is that people don't know how to get certified. That to me is a disservice, because what happens is then if nobody's lining up for the government to meet those goals, the government still is going to finish the project. So they're just going to get what we call waivers or opportunities to say nobody in this county is an electrician that's minority certified, or a woman that's an electrician. So guess we got to go with the regular electrician. Sorry, guys. And all of that opportunity and money was left on the table. It was supposed to be spent with your demographic, but it's not, because not a lot of people are certified. Again, that's why I developed the Level Up program.
Right. So with the Level Up program, what can businesses, MWBEs, what can they expect? What's the process? How do they get involved? Talk to me a little bit about that.
So the Level Up program is the pipeline to all of the opportunities that I've worked so hard over the last 4 years to create. You got this new local law and county government that makes the county have to spend more money and do more inclusion with minority and women-owned businesses. Then you have the ECIDA's pilot for this tax incentive. Then you have the community benefits agreement. All of these things are great. All these things say you got to spend with minorities, you got to spend with women, you got to use these businesses, but if the businesses do not meet the guidelines of being counted towards the goals, then none of the work that I've done matters. That's why I've pumped the brakes on creating opportunity, and I've started developing an initiative that prepares people to seize the opportunity. Yes. So the first thing is, if you own a business, and I mean a business that definitely government usually contracts with, meaning construction, supplies, or a service like landscaping or cleaning, janitorial services like that. We want to think about things. It's not often that government's looking for someone to run the daycare center, right? Like that's not anything. So, or a yoga instructor. Those things are available in certain spaces. In certain private sectors, companies actually have adopted MWBE goals just within their own house. So I'm not trying to turn off people that run those types of businesses, but Level Up is specifically for like businesses that are concentrated in areas where the stadium or local government, especially the county, are looking for services, outside attorneys, counselors, all of these things can be contracted out to minority and women-owned businesses. So to be a part of the Level Up program, you go to www.erie.gov/level up, and you just put your information in. Right now, we're running a pilot phase through the end of the year, testing the model out, and the official program starts in January. And there'll be someone in county government that looks at all of the applicants and assesses business sustainability, and then sees, is it time for this business to go to the next level? So if you have like an idea, like, ooh, I want to start a business, Level Up's not for you. Right. Level Up is for the business owner that is currently has a brand, has clientele, and is doing great. But because of racial barriers or systemic barriers, they can't go to the next level, which prohibits them from building generational wealth and passing their business down to their children. And so the one thing that you can count on when you're in the Level Up program is learning how to get MWBE certified. Like that's a big issue. Like it sounds good. Like, ooh, look at all these opportunities for MWBEs, but I'm not an MWBE. How do I become one? Whew, it's a 2-year process for some people. Yeah. It's a lot dealing with your business taxes and the percentage of your business that you own and business credit and insurance. Yeah. It's a lot. So the Level Up program walks you through that. The Level Up program also gives you an opportunity to practice on having a big professional contract before you get to government contracting, but through our partners in the private sector. So my office has personally built relationships with people, major multi-million-dollar corporations in Western New York, and said, hey, before these businesses finish the Level Up program and get their MWBE certification and get their financial situation correct and, get their LLCs or, to where it needs to be in terms of legalities. We also want them to practice. We also want them to have some money. Like our people are tired of mentorship programs where they're just sitting around for 6 to 8 weeks and all they leave with is a sheet of paper that says, you went through this mentorship program. Like we marginalized people need to be paid. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so the Level Up program, I was very passionate about making sure that if you were in it, that your business was working and your business wasn't just working like some rinky-dink opportunity, but your business had a major contract with a major corporation. That way, when you leave the Level Up program, not only do you have contacts in the not only are you certified to do government contracts, but you also, throughout the program, built private sector relationships. So now your business can go either way.
Yeah. So am I hearing this correctly that they'll have right-sized contracts before they get to the big size? And then the second question to that is there a threshold of they have to have a certain amount of revenue before they can have these contracts, or do they need to be in business for a certain amount of times before they a certain amount of time before they can enter into the Level Up program? So right size contracts and then thresholds.
Correct. So yes, on the right size contracts, I think the biggest barrier for business owners who look like me and come from the community that I represent is because of their racial background, they haven't been afforded the opportunities to have the resources to have like large staff. A lot of people who run businesses in my community are the cook, they're the attorney, they are the janitor, they do it all in their business, and they really can't miss a day of work because they shut down the business and miss the money that they needed to make to provide for their family. So the biggest thing for me and what makes Level Up program so profound, the best business pipeline growth program in the country, in my opinion, is the right size contract. Mm-hmm. Now you got Tyrone who paints, and Tyrone paints, all up and down Kensington and all up and down Bailey, and everybody loves Tyrone. He's the best painter in the neighborhood. But the truth of the matter is, it's his call. I think you better call Tyrone. I think I heard the Tyrone bumping that from his work band once or twice. Tyrone is a fictional character that I bring up when I'm pitching Level Up, and people love it. Like, people love this character Tyrone. And I think one day I'm gonna really meet a painter named Tyrone. Right. Watch. But so no matter where I go and I talk about Level Up, I always use the example of Tyrone. Tyrone sometimes has his cousin working with him. Sometimes his cousin doesn't show up. Mm-hmm. But that's his staff. And Tyrone has been in business for 10 years. He makes a couple $100s a day. He's able to provide for his family, but the way in which he's running his business is not really ever going to scale up to generational wealth for him to pass down to his kids. Mm-hmm. Now, Tyrone hears about the stadium is coming, and he knows that the stadium eventually to be built is going to need to be painted, and automatically he counts himself out. Mm-hmm. That'll never be me. Until now. The Level Up program is here to give Tyrone an opportunity, not just on a new stadium, but with local corporations to get a contract to where it's the capacity in which Tyrone can deliver. So it might just be a $50,000 contract to do 2 of the executive suites in the new stadium. But guess what? Tyrone ain't never had a $50,000 contract. Right. Tyrone is on his way to leveling up. Tyrone is going to go through the Level Up program. He might get 1 or 2 $50,000 contracts. He might have enough money to redo his branding, buy a new truck, get some new supplies. The Level Up program is going to work with Bank on Buffalo on customizing a business credit line for Tyrone, not one that is, too out of reach for him to maintain. And then he's also going to leave the program with his MWBE certification so that after he makes that $150,000 on those, 3 $50,000 contracts, he actually is in a position to bid on another government project that's coming down the road. And we know here in Buffalo, we are constantly having affordable housing being developed. Yeah. We're constantly expanding the medical corridor. There's talks about decking the 33. There's talks about building a new jail. There's so much construction coming to this region right now. And Tyrone needs the opportunity to be included in that. And it shouldn't just be that because he's the painter that does good work on Kensington that he's boxed out. Yeah. That's why I created Level Up. So, after the stadium is built, you've already kind of alluded to this, but after the stadium is built and you have, these, we've gotten these contracts, what is the next iteration of helping Black and brown businesses to have sustainable growth and sustainable ability to have contracts in this Western New York area, because the Bills Stadium, they'll be building for a while, but it'll come to a point where it stops. So what happens after that? What's the plan? What have you thought that far? Is there a works in the process of how do you move that forward afterward? Well, because of the community benefits agreement, unlike any other construction project across the country, this one doesn't stop with just the construction phase. The community benefits agreement says that 30% of retail and concessions in the stadium has to be spent with women and minority-owned businesses. Mm-hmm. So even when the construction phase is over, there will be spending annually for 30 years, because the term of the lease is 30 years and the community benefits agreement is legally binding to the lease. So as long as the bills are the bills for the next 30 years under this deal that was just passed, they have to spend 30% of revenues with women and minority owned businesses to operate the stadium. There's also things in the CBA that talk about public art being a part of the stadium. So it gives local artists, who are small businesses. People think that people who are artists are not small businesses. Yeah. They are. They will have a space to create public art so that the stadium can be a destination site, not just an entertainment complex. Yeah. So I'm excited about that. But in terms of so the construction phase of the stadium is over. So what happens to all those construction guys? Like I said, the answer is twofold. The first is we know there's more construction coming to this region. Like we're talking about it every single day. I sit on the IDA. I see all the developers that come in and ask for subsidies to be able to build buildings. So people are going to continue to build. And that's why it's important that the Level Up program is not just focused on government contracts, but it also introduces the Black-owned businesses to private contracts too, because not everybody that's developing uses government money, which means they're not beholden to MWBE laws unless they want to be. Yeah. So that's why it was the pilot, the tax incentive pilot at the ECIDA is groundbreaking. Because that is essentially, even with your private money, so you can be somebody that's just taking your private money and you're going to build a tower or a big condo complex. You don't have to be beholden to the MWBE laws. But if the Level Up program has already introduced you to people who are local, not just because they're Black, but they're local and they do pristine work, why wouldn't you keep the money local? It costs these developers more money to hire subcontractors from Texas and California to come in. It benefits them to hire local. So if we're teaching Tyrone to level up slowly, by the time he gets done doing those 3 suites at the stadium, making that 150, he's grown his workforce. He's grown his business acumen to the point where he's not going to go backwards to just working on Kensington. Right. He just did 3 suites at the stadium. He's ready to go talk to a developer about getting a contract and working on his development. Or he's ready to go and bid on another government contract, which may be expanding the convention center. The convention center is a government-owned building. SUNY Erie those are government-owned buildings. And we need painting when we, update SUNY Erie. The convention center is constantly, I feel like we're approving money to redo the bathrooms in the convention center. There are people in the Level Up program that do kitchens and baths. And right now they're neighborhood guys who do kitchens and baths in the neighborhood. But the Level Up program will prepare them to be able to do kitchens and baths and suites, in the convention center or the next hotel that is being developed. So the second part of that, though, Kyria, is I don't know. I'm not going to pretend like I have this big floor plan. Like the Level Up program is in a pilot for a reason, because we have 50 Black-owned businesses right now, and we're testing this model and seeing how it works to send them to private corporations and give them customized support with navigating business resources across the city and the county, and also one-to-one financial management, credit lines, and MWBE certification. And when we're done, we'll look at these outcomes, and that's when we'll say the natural next step is this. But sometimes you just got to try it and test it out and see where the chips fall to figure out what the next step of success is going to be for marginalized business owners.
I love that. It's very entrepreneurial. It's like the MWBEs that you're helping. So I have one more question, maybe 2. I know I might be getting close to my time, right? But I know we can just talk forever, because you are not just, you're a friend. You're my sister, actually. Yes. So I got a question. When it comes to, so you developed this office of, was it public health or mental health?
Health equity.
Health equity. Mm-hmm. There we go. So when you develop I'm seeing kind of maybe a correlation here, because part of being an MWB and being part of being an entrepreneur, period, is there's a mindset that comes with it. There is a mental health aspect of it. When it comes to the Level Up program, will you be building in a mental health component to help your MWBEs think about the stresses, the challenges of not just being an entrepreneur, but being a Black entrepreneur in that space? Are you going to incorporate systems and strategies on how to develop that as well?
I love that question. I want to. Yes, that has to be a part of it. I can tell you what we've done already. So the first thing is the Level Up program also is going to offer college credit courses at SUNY Erie in bookkeeping, legal management of a business, business management, accounting, and all of those credits will be rolled into a short-term certificate, like Level Up certificate, but they also will be immediately rolled over into the SUNY Erie business management program. So if someone that is a candidate does not have a college degree, they can go through this Level Up track at SUNY Erie and get college credit and be on the pathway to getting a 2-year degree in business management. And the cool thing about this program is all of the homework and all of the classroom studies is your actual business. So when you're in the bookkeeping class, you're doing the books for your business. Yeah. So I love that. And I shout out to Dr. Sagai, who's the interim president over at SUNY Erie, for partnering with me and seeing the importance of providing that educational outlet. But you spoke more specifically to like social, emotional, and mental health. I want to explore that. I don't know if that service will be housed in the county or if it can be housed at SUNY Erie, which is more like I can't say the word right now, academic-based education about how to run a business. But I do believe that we probably will find when we finish the pilot that there were a lot of people that were stressed because navigating entrepreneurship is hard enough, but when you layer it with being Black and dealing with the lack of resources or the trauma that Black communities often face, it is even more stressful. So when the data shows that, we will have to address it. What we've done so far is I have made a rule that the private corporations that want to be a part of the Level Up program are not allowed to get the business's information. Mm-hmm. And it is because a lot of the businesses have told me that sometimes they meet with big developers or big general contractors or even very fancy, well-known brand major corporations in Western New York. And they put together these presentations and they make all these copies at Kinko's and they stay up overnight and they get so excited and then nothing ever happens. And it may not always be affiliated with malice. I think some people just some corporations do want to look like it's sexy right now to post George Floyd to be all DEI. And we have a DEI department. And some people just have like some HR people who have taken on a new title and they're not really engaged. And then there are some people who mean to do it, but they just don't know how to do it effectively. Right. But the consequence is you've wasted this Black business owner's time, energy. You've built them up, given them this false hope, and now they're deflated again. And so what the Level Up program does is it tells the corporation, you tell us what your need is. You guys want what? Gourmet popcorn, coffee, staplers, soap in the bathroom, and somebody to come do some concrete in the stairway. Mm-hmm. Got it. We will go to our database, talk to the business owners, tell them what corporation is interested in their services, assess what their capacity and deliverables are. Then the Level Up program goes back to the corporation and says, we have someone, they have a staff of 3 people. They're available to work about 2 weeks straight. They're going to need half of the contract up front in order to get their supplies. Are you in? When they say, yes, we're in, that's when that corporation meets the Level Up marginalized business owner. And then they do business themselves. We stay out of it. The government stays out of it. So that to me is protecting the dignity, protecting the mental health, and protecting the stress, and just kind of trying to manage the hope of an opportunity I just know that time is a luxury. Everybody does not have it. It's a blessing to have time. Yeah. And when you're dealing with communities who have been traumatized, who have been targeted by racial mass shooting, who, had the most deaths when you look at race, when it came to our Christmas blizzard, most of the deaths were people of color. Like they don't want to go to a big fancy company and set up their big slideshow and think this was great. And they're high-fiving and then they never call.
Right.
Like you've killed them.
Yeah.
You've killed their spirit. So that's something I'm very serious about. Corporations call all the time and like, we need the list of businesses. Why? So you can cherry pick which ones look like they'll fit you and maybe you'll mess with them. No, that you're not doing that.
Yeah, I love that. One of the things that, we were very intentional about when I first started IC Success, and then, we rolled it out and it grew, was to create pathways and remove as many barriers. I mean, like childcare or transportation and all of those things, because there are so many ways that Black businesses already eliminate themselves. There's because of disinvestment or lack of investment, there's a scarcity mentality. Maybe it's not for me, or there's not enough for me, and all of those things. So like it's really, really important, and I'm really, really proud that you have been thinking about all of the barriers and all of the blockages that most people just don't even think about when they think, even starting a business in your seed round, your fundraising in the beginning, where they say, just go ask your family and friends for $10,000. Got $10,000 in my family and friends. They're like, you know what I mean? So thinking of those things.
10 people for $100.
Yeah. Right.
What?
So thinking of those things, and it's going back to being, a Black woman, you understand the challenges and the barriers there. So number one, thank you for going this route. And then number two, what, you already talked about the legacy of, you wanted to be one way before April got there and then another way after April got there. This is the last question. What do you want people to know about your leadership and then leadership in general, for people who come from where you come from to think about going into spaces of leadership?
Thank you for that. And I just want to shout out to IC Success, the Exchange at Beverly Gray, the SBA. I could go on and on. The All-State program over at UB, the MWBE program, because it is those boots on the ground programs that are cranking out people who are now in the Level Up Initiative pilot. And you can see that they've had some work done somewhere. Specifically here at the Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus, to see Naja Corp go through your program and now be on the shelf at Tops. It was just the marriage between our intentional work that got them there. To see Crenshaw Chicken and Waffles start here, and then he was handing out chicken and waffles at a Sabres game a couple of weeks ago through the Level Up Initiative. I mean, this type of work is happening because there are people like not just me, but you too, Kyria, in the community being intentional. And what Level Up is doing is it's just bringing everybody together. It's not a new program. Like IC Success, the Exchange at Beverly Gray, like there's the role in the Level Up program is that when people sign up, we send them to you guys. We just are helping them understand what they're getting into before they get there. But about leadership, I just would say, like, to even expand on what I just said, nothing that I've done is me. I don't have an agenda. Like, people just call my office and they have a problem and then it becomes the agenda. Right. So that's it. The Office of Health Equity, the language access law, the public art law, like these are all big April Baskin initiatives, the Level Up program, the community benefits agreement. I didn't think of none of that stuff. Like, people shout me out like, thank you, April. Right. But these are like, it's the partnership for the public good. It's block clubs. Yeah. It's the churches and the concerned clergy and the Baptist Ministers Council and the NAACP, or Larry Stitz and Golden Cup Coffee, who's just somebody who's been around for a long time working in construction compliance and now in his second half of his third career in life, actually.
Yeah,
'Cause
right.
Our parents will talk about when Mr. Stitz ran the Y. I know. So I don't know what career Mr. Larry Stitz is on, but now, he owns a coffee shop on the corner of Jefferson and Utica. And it's him who calls me, in the middle of the night or in the middle of the day, like, I got an issue or I got an idea for our community. It's the people who tell April, this is our problem. What I am, God has just blessed me with the gift of just being like a bridge builder and a problem solver.
Yeah.
Like, I like to sit down with the FBI web and put pictures up and vision boards and cut out magazine clippings and start connecting dots. But the agenda, like this big April Baskin equity agenda, that's the people.
Yeah.
That's the people. And what I would encourage anybody that's coming into leadership is everything that's in your notebook about what you want to do, throw it out. Like, I don't know, Adrienne is here, and so she comes from like a music background, and so you they talk about, and you too, you have a music, so they talk about, like, there was this time where like Lil Wayne, like, he wrote all of his rhymes down in a notebook, and then he just like got rid of it. So like I heard that, and I did something like that. Like, I wrote down everything I wanted to do in a book, and then I just put it on a shelf, and that was it. And I've done none of that stuff, but I've done all this incredibly dope stuff.
Yeah.
And and it's because it's organically from the people.
Yes.
So put yourself out the way. Get yourself out the way and just open up your ears. Let people complain, whine, fight, deal with them. Because if you're here to serve people, if you're a leader, that means you are about service. So put yourself out of it and think about the people, what they want, and sit back and figure out how to solve their problems.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, that's what I love that. I mean, I think that's, just from serving with Matt and reading his book and seeing how he's done that, and then working with Kyria and IC Success Team and then Beth and all of that. I think they all have that same mentality that is for the people, and we're just going to try it. You give me the idea, we'll figure out how to
make
work
it happen. Yep.
So thank you so much for your time. I know you have a busy schedule. You are doing all of the stuff, the things and the stuff that do the things. So thank you so much for your time. It was my pleasure to talk to you, and thanks so much.
Thank you for listening to the Talking Cities podcast with Matt Entsice and friends. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast on all podcast streaming platforms. Talking Cities is brought to you by the Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus, dedicated to furthering economic growth, igniting urban revitalization, and building a strong, thriving community. Using our mutual city methodology, we foster conversation and collaboration among anchor institutions, partners in the community. Together, we address critical issues including job and business opportunities, healthy and active living, entrepreneurship, energy, access, and transportation. The Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus, working together to change our city's future.